All right, it is Darian Weeks. Darian, it's been a little bit of a frustrating start to the UFC run, right? But it's not exactly like they're throwing softballs at you over there, man. You're taking the toughest matchups available. So just talk to me about kind of how you feel about how things have started. I know you would have liked to get the wins, but you've been in there with some studs already.
Yeah, yeah. It started off, a little rocky so far. Two decision losses against opponents, which in my eyes, I feel like I could have beat both of them. But yeah, they giving me some tough fights, but I feel like that's just because they got a lot of maybe respect for me. They got I mean, obviously in those fights, I was never dominated in either of those bouts. So, you know, I, sometimes it takes a rocky start to go ahead and get things moving. So, I mean, this is just a setup for a big bang in my consideration.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, look, you're talking about a stud veteran in Barberina. You're talking about a highly hyped prospect in Gary. So, I mean, it's certainly that they respect you with the matchups. And then if you want proof that they respect you in the matchups and that you will damn near fight anybody, you are going to fight Cedric Doumbe in Paris, who, listen, a lot of MMA fans might not. Yeah, Cedric Doumbe, who is that? Obviously, an absolute killer of a kickboxer. If you've never seen his kickboxing highlights, go seek him out. But man, what happens when they come to you and say, we want you to go to Cedric Doumbe's backyard, fight this world champion kickboxer? And you just said, yeah, no problem. Let's go.
Yeah, I seen it as well, when they came to me with that fight and I knew who he was, I'm like, yeah, this seems to me for, my breakout right here. You know what I mean? Set it up even bigger. Let's put it in his backyard. He's a highly loved combative over there. Go ahead and put a man like that to sleep. Put him out. I mean, what better wish could you ask for? Unfortunately, that didn't come to pass, but we're still in a good position.
I love it. First, let me say that's why fighters are built different than normal people. Because if they come to me and say Cedric Doumbe in Paris, I'm like, I just tweaked my knee this morning in practice, man. It was a tough one. I got to get this thing looked at. So props to you for taking it. What do you know as far as what happened of why it didn't come together? Is it some of the details have come out that the commission didn't want it to happen? I don't. What were you told? What did you hear?
Yeah, well, there was some talk on Twitter when it was first being made. Some guys going back and forth saying that the French Commission wouldn't let someone fight 7 fights that had someone who had 2 fights, which was really weird to me because this man is a professional kickboxer. You know what I mean? He has over 80 fights, 40 knockouts. I mean, he's the top. He's the best. So it was just kind of confusing to me. I think mostly it came down to the French. This being the first time the UFC is over there. They were a little uncomfortable with the rules. There's more things involved than just kickboxing. There's wrestling. There's people who can get choked out. So I feel like they just went a little safe on the rules part, which was in turn bad deal for him as well. You know what I mean? Because I don't even think he gets to fight on that card now. You know what I mean? I don't think they found him a fight. So, which maybe in the future, he'll get a little more wins, or he'll come over here to America and we can duke it out. I'm down for whatever. That would have been a great fight, but it would have been great to be over in France for the first time for a UFC card. But then again, Nate Diaz's last card. How can you be upset with that trade off?
I was going to ask you about that, right? So, as you said, it's not a bad trade off. I mean, Las Vegas, fight capital of the world, a Nate Diaz crowd, it's going to be packed. Again, this is against Yohan Lainesse, we should say, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But I did wonder about that if part of you was like, well, I mean, look, Las Vegas isn't bad, but a trip to Paris, a free trip over there, it doesn't hurt either. So, were you disappointed at all, or is it kind of like, well, Vegas is all right too?
I could say my wife was more disappointed than I was. Uh, but yeah, just maybe not disappointed, just kind of, like bummer, you know what I'm saying, like a little knee slapper. But and then when they told me what other card I was going to be on, I'm like, yeah, like I said, that's a good trade off. Especially in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. We're not at the Apex. We're in, one of the most packed arenas, electrified arenas that the UFC's been in. So I'm cool with it. I love it. I'm glad that I got this. It was a great trade in, and then I also get to see Nate Diaz's last fight live. So it's pretty cool.
maybe you get a performance bonus and you take your wife to Paris anyway. You know what I mean? Just on a vacation.
I like that. I like to hear that.
All right, talk to you about the matchup with the Yohan Lainesse, somebody I'm very familiar with and calling some of his fights at CFFC, but still kind of making his way in the UFC. But what have you seen in him? Have you watched a lot of tape? What do you think about the matchup?
I think it's a good matchup. He's a guy who he likes to wrestle. He likes to strike. Um, he likes to be active. He likes to come forward. You know what I mean? This is not a person who's searching to just point out somebody. He looks for the finish, which is a good. It complements me well. I fight against guys who look for the finish. I like to stand in there myself. We like to bang. I love to wrestle. So I think it's a very competitive matchup. I think he's hungry for his first win in the UFC, just like I am. He got a tough break against Gabe Green with a TKO in the second round. So I think we're both going to come in there hungry. I feel like it's going to be an electrifying fight. So what better card to put it on than the most electrifying card, hopefully, of the year.
I love it. Yeah, stylistically on paper, it looks like a lot of fun. So, talk to you about during training. I mean, as you said, you had a ton of experience before you got to this level, and things were working for you. But you have these two setbacks. I mean, does it send you like we got to reinvent things, or is it just like let's stick with what got us here? We got to tweak some things. What's the approach been in training?
I think it's not more so of reinventing, like we saw in both of those fights. My athleticism was top tier. My vision was good. It's more of kind of comfortability. We fought so long down here at this lower level that when we got up there, maybe it was kind of things were kind of lagging, or we were kind of hesitant to do things just because of the comfortability level. But now being in that, have I fought in front of a crowd of over 30,000, being that I fought, a veteran on 4 days notice, the comfortability is kind of there now. We're going into the third fight. Things are working like clockwork. Weight's working like clockwork. So I feel like, that comfortability is key. Once I get comfortable in a position, I start to attack and everything starts to open up after that.
I wonder. You obviously had such an extensive amateur career, and I think it's valuable. I love what the IMMAF is doing, and I think it's really great for people. But I always understand too that I imagine it's difficult as an athlete in that situation. You're like, I just got to go get paid. You know what I mean? I don't care if I'm getting experience. I got to go turn pro. So I guess how difficult it was that balance for you to stay disciplined and stay. Yes, I want to go chase that money, but this experience is very valuable for me, so I'm going to continue to get it. Like, how tough was it for you to keep that path and stay that road?
It's always a tough path, and especially doing a sport this long with the greater portion of it had just been just because you do it. But with that being said, it's something I love. This is a sport I love. I told my coach the first day I ever stepped in the ring, before I knew, you could get paid for this. I stepped in the ring as an amateur. I told him I do this every day for free. You wouldn't have to pay me. So that being said, it makes it a little bit easier to come into practice every day, kind of get things going. And then when they put money involved, it's just a whole new, igniting the fire, like, okay, well, now I can punch somebody and get a couple thousand for it. So that being said, it was a little tough, being that long in the amateur career, but I knew it was doing something for me. It was making me better. It was giving me skill wise. It was giving me opponents that I may see up here at this top of level, especially doing IMMAF, where you go across seas, you fight people from different countries, you fight people from different backgrounds. That's what you're going to see in this top level. So I was enjoyed to do that. And plus, I own my own business. So we was able to, survive without feeling like, we're losing too much.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's a great thing. I recommend to any athlete that's up and coming, if they can do it, man, get that experience, get those lessons out of the way before you turn pro. And I think it really does, provide you some real help later on. But now you're in the pro ranks. Now you're going to be at T-Mobile Arena. Now it's UFC 279. It's going to be an electric one. I guess last thing I'll ask you is, what kind of fight do you think we see? Because as I said, just me looking at it on paper, I think it's going to be a pretty good one, man. I think it's going to be some fireworks. Is that what you're seeing? Is this thing as you played out in your head?
Definitely. I think it's going to be fireworks. Like I said, we're both hungry for our first W in the UFC. He had a highly anticipated Contender Series win, and he thought, for sure that would echo over into his first UFC fight. it didn't pan out for him. So I'm expecting him to go. He went to the gym. He fixed some things. He put some blocks together. He's going to come back at the top of his, competitive state. And I'm ready for that. I'm at the top of mine. So I feel like when we get in there, things are going to shift. Things are going to move. And one of us is going to come out with the finish, and it's going to be me.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Can't wait. September 10th, UFC 279. Make sure you tune in to watch Darian Weeks, who will legitimately fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. So he's going to take on Yohan Lainesse at UFC 279. We're looking forward to it, brother.
Thank you, brother, man, for having me on. I look forward to seeing you there at UFC 279.